Well, welcome everyone to the final video in the series, an introduction to land administration. I'm Dr. Simon Hull from the University of Cape Town's Division of Geomatics, and I'm going to be wrapping up the session by asking Chepo Fokani, who's from the ARD, the Alliance for Rural Democracy, and Dr. Rosalie Kingwell, who you should know by now, is an independent researcher and research associate at University of the Western Cape's Institute for Poverty, Land and Agrarian Studies. How many times have you heard that? 17 at least. So I'm going to just ask you ladies some questions to really focus our minds on what we have learned over the last 16 videos and wrap it up. So without any further ado, Rosalie, I'll put you on the spot, and I'm just going to ask you, what have you enjoyed about doing this video series with us?
Thanks, Simon, for that question. Very interesting question. You know, I've really enjoyed doing this series for several reasons. I guess, firstly, I'm passionate about the need for curriculum reforms in South Africa regarding all things land at the tertiary levels of training and education. And so on. And this gave me the opportunity to be part of a first attempt in South Africa to introduce a course on understanding land administration from the point of view of those who are not included in the mainstream system, because usually it's taught from the point of view of the conventional system. And it also helped me think through how to introduce the issues at an introductory level for the NGO sector, who are the ones who are actually at the coalface right now doing this work due to the weaknesses in state administration. And we now have a basis in this course for ramping it up to the next levels to look at the issues in a deeper way and from the perspective of what we propose for South Africa. I also very much enjoyed working with the team, so we could be soundboards for each other. And I even enjoyed our sometimes quite strenuous arguments. You know, that helped me to be much clearer about what I or we mean when we use the concepts that are in use every day, you know, but often with very little understanding from a land governance, land policy, land law, land admin perspective. I also enjoyed the fact that Simon provided us with very flexible leadership so we could fit in with each other's work demands, but also within a very clear framework. So thanks, Simon. Good leadership. And finally, I really enjoyed the diversity of our team. You know, firstly, we all come from different angles and perspectives. We have different degrees of experience that prove to be very effective as a checking mechanism. Thirdly, we're all different generations, as you can see. And we're from different backgrounds. So finally, let's not forget race. It's something that is uncomfortable in South Africa, but it's something from which we can't escape and we should talk about. So the challenges of land administration mainly affect poor Black people, and it was wonderful to have Chepo who could make sure we were handling the problems in an appropriate and sensitive way. She was so gracious in how she engaged with us so-called land admin experts in a very patient and gentle but firm way, and she provided us with a critical voice. Thanks, Chepo.
Yeah, thanks, Chepo. Anything to add, Chepo, from your side? What did you enjoy about this video series?
Certainly the process of thinking through concepts and constructs that maybe sounded so simplistic, and we're so comfortable, certainly because we're a social movement, the ARD. We're so comfortable with these terms that we've taken for granted how we got here. And we sometimes struggle to interrogate them in a meaningful way. And you can do that through a workshop platform. But this is a more comprehensive process because we get to think through the conversation and the course video by video, and you think we will reach a certain point. And for me, what excites me is that the course is dynamic and I think insightful and intentional but it's in no way going to be the final authority on land administration. So we get to contribute to a living body of work. We get to put our voice out there, you know, through the various scholars that we're citing and referencing. But what it also means, I think, is I hope we're going to spark conversation. I hope people who are logging on, you know, over 17 videos are going to disagree, are going to question, are going to interrogate, are going to, you know, come back with comments, because that's what I think has been missing from this, like, thinking of land or speaking about it, certainly in the region or even in South Africa. We just sometimes are so complacent, and we haven't been very active in differing with one another to also say we can't start from that point, you know. And I'm really appreciative of the intergenerational learning and the multidisciplinary learning as well, because there's a lot that is not easily acquired in your textbooks and, you know, your formal education. But in this conversational learning, in a series like this, you get to really just also question what you had thought or assumed. And you remember really that sometimes we zoom a lot as South Africa into our dynamics. And we sometimes forget to just come up for air, check what's happening in the region, because we're not the first country to go through this. The land question for us is coming now, like 25 years into democracy, we're rethinking it. But many other countries have been here and they've made great strides or mistakes, and we have a chance to learn and to emulate. And I think that a series like this hopefully is being watched by people from all over who are also going to come back to us with their expertise and inputs.
Awesome.
Yeah,
Thanks,
yeah,
ladies. It's really great to hear your inputs, and I really enjoyed working with the two of you as well. Yes, Rosalie.
Yeah, I wanted to ask you, did you enjoy this experience?
Yeah, it's been yes, it has been a good experience. It's been really fun, and I say fun, to approach topics from different directions. And you mentioned that we've had some strenuous arguments and we've grappled with things. It's been quite eye-opening. I've enjoyed approaching things like land administration, land governance, land tenure, land rights, the foundational things that we were at pains to define well. And it took us quite a while before we reached common ground on some of those things. So that was a challenge, but I really enjoyed that. And I really feel comfortable with what we've come out with. And I hope that we've explained it well so that you guys don't have the challenge down the line. Were there any other challenges you want to highlight, Rosalie?
Wow, yeah, there were lots of challenges. There were content challenges, there were pedagogical challenges. You know, by that I mean how you teach and how you learn in both, in this case, written and oral forms, actually. And there were technical challenges. You know, we were all on a learning curve for all of these three challenges. You know, even when we thought we knew the content, it was then challenging to clarify the terminology and arrange the material in ways that made it coherent for listeners as opposed to readers. You know, I'm used to writing articles. It's a whole different ballgame to be using this kind of format. We also had to keep reminding ourselves, or in fact, Simon had to keep reminding me, you know, that we must keep content at the level of a beginner's course, at an introductory level, because that was what this was aiming to do, not aiming at an advanced level. And by advanced, I don't mean more clever or more intelligent. I just mean starting at the basics. You know, so even people who think they know all about land admin, I think could benefit from this course. It's actually even harder to do this than for more advanced levels, to be honest, because you can't get away with just throwing around concepts that sound good, but which a beginner may not grasp. And then you realize you don't even grasp it properly yourself as a teacher. And then the technical challenges of meeting and recording over Zoom during a pandemic, you know, was at first seemed daunting, but actually it proved to be quite positive, as it meant we could meet quickly at short notice, take into account sudden needs, fetch a child from school or attend to something else. And actually it brought down the time and expense costs, but it joined Chepo from Nelspruit with Simon and I in two completely different parts of Cape Town. However, you know, the writing, arranging, scripting, and recording were extremely time consuming for us newbies. You know, we're not trained as video people, as producing videos and post-production and etc. Yeah, and we had to experiment with different methods of recording. You could say we were rather mad, actually, to take on such a difficult task on a small budget. But I'm extremely grateful that Simon has the technical skills to stitch together the video bites and to add little sound clips at the beginning and the end, and to make it look as professional as we could, given our, you know, given the skill sets we were bringing to this.
Thanks, Rosalie. Any challenges you want to highlight, Chepo?
I think in addition to everything that Rosalie's put forward, I have such a deep respect for anyone who is doing online learning and online teaching. I have studied, you know, via distance before, but it was nothing like this. Perhaps it's because I was well prepared, or I was aware of what was going to happen, you know, when I signed up for that course or that, you know, process. But this feels like it's uncharted territory. And I'm thinking of all the students all over the world, obviously, but in our country, in South Africa, it is so hard to get stable data. And I'm in a big city. It is so hard to have, you know, reliable cell phone reception. I'm thinking of how harder it actually becomes to share knowledge and to also learn, you know. Self-study is one way of learning, but I have such deep respect for people who are doing this all around us. And I'm thinking of what a big transition we've gone through in the middle of lockdown. And that's our commonality, obviously, with many other people watching this, that it is much harder than anyone could have anticipated or thought, because you're in a lot of a different crunch, you know. And when I suppose the president encouraged people to try work from home, and various, you know, government officials scaled back children or people going to school, it sounds good in theory, you know, to be at home and be able to learn or to work, but it is really hard because there's also no escape, you know. The office is the home and the home is the office. And I'm not ever gonna take for granted how difficult it is and how we've got to do a lot better as a country in terms of, you know, the infrastructure to make it more easy for people to do that. But yeah, that's my takeaways.
So is there, I'll come to you again, Chepo, is there any significant takeaway from all the previous 16 videos that you want everyone to remember?
Absolutely. Fit for purpose. We don't have to adopt anything from anywhere without tailoring it to our situation and context. And we can move away from this binary thinking, you title or you don't. We literally have a chance as a young democracy to do the unthinkable. We have a chance to chart our own future, to learn. I mean, at the same time we were filming this video series, we saw our parliament was doing submissions on upgrading of land tenure rights. And this is interesting because it's a relic of pre-1994, you know, we are still amending laws that we inherited prior to 1994 and amending the ones we got thereafter. So what that says to me about land is, honestly and truly, we've got to rethink and reimagine, and we are capable of so much. And I'm excited, most of all, for other people's inputs. I'm excited for comments when this goes live, for people to tell us, well, I wouldn't have done it like that, or in fact, that's exactly what I think we could do, and just bring that richness and newness and build the expertise collectively. Yeah.
And same question for you, Rosalie. What is one significant takeaway that you want everyone to remember?
Yeah, thanks, Chepo, for that fantastic takeaway that you provided for not just us, but for South Africa. That was so well put. So, you know, from my side, I think the takeaway is nothing is impossible. Firstly, we can do learning in many ways, although, as Chepo said, it's very hard. You know, not only in formal institutions. And we can start doing land administration in the fit for purpose way for the inclusion of the poor in all contexts. There is no excuse for business as usual anymore. As Chepo said, we're still stuck with apartheid laws that happily carrying on as if nothing's wrong. So we can constantly strive to reform the official system of land administration to include everyone in this country, poor and rich. And for that, we must all firstly acknowledge that we can design new tools for those who are currently excluded. But we have to be mindful of doing this in a way that community members understand, that they can manage and run, that they agree with. So it means we can't start by aiming for unattainable and inappropriately ambitious goals. We must meet the needs of rural people who may be living in poverty. But that doesn't mean we should not be ambitious. We should be ambitious to reform the entire structure of land administration in this country, because it's the entire structure that's out of sync and just simply not meeting the needs of South Africa today.
I think the significant takeaway that I would like everyone to remember is that land administration is a system. We talk about land administration, and that's just it's just one component of a greater system involving land policy, land management, land tenure, rights, governance, land information, the cadastre. You know, it all works together. And try to remember the analogy of the car, that you can take a car apart, take every single piece apart and just, you know, lay it all out, and it's going to be useless unless you're a scrap dealer, and then it's obviously quite useful. But if you put it all together in the right way, then the sum is greater, the whole is greater than the sum of the parts. I'm forgetting it already. The whole is greater than the sum of the parts. The car itself gives you freedom. It gives you the ability to run down to the shops in the rain and not get wet. You know, it gives you so much more than just all the parts. And so it is with the land administration system. And I think a mistake in South Africa's past, recent past, is not focusing on the systemic nature, but focusing on the little bits and not seeing that they all need to fit together properly, which is why we have land policies that are disjointed, and we don't have efficient administration, and we've got confusion in different authority structures and things like that, because it hasn't been seen holistically. So that is my significant takeaway. Remember, land administration works as a system of interrelated parts.
Sure, I'm so glad you brought us back to that, Simon. Yeah, that's so critical.
Any final words?
Yeah, well, I'd like to say how grateful we are to LandNNES for having provided us with this opportunity to start a process of curriculum reform. Let's face it, that's what we're doing. And for making this available to the NGO sector, who are the ones who are mostly grappling with these issues on the ground. However, we do
Absolutely.
sincerely hope the government sector will also listen to these videos, and maybe it will help us to build some kind of common understanding so we can start reforming land administration in South Africa to include the 60% who are currently excluded. So thank you, LandNNES.
And from your side, Chepo, any final words?
You know, in addition to everything that Rosalie said, we have a chance to contribute, you know, to knowledge making, knowledge production. And that's really exciting. And I think that LandNNES is using their platform, you know, through the work that they've done with government in a really strategic way that advances all of the needs and the demands that are there on the ground. But equally, I would think exactly like Rosalie said, we want to see a thriving and just bustling civil society made up of all these different groupings, some who do and don't affiliate to LandNNES, tackling these issues. And certainly it's time for our government to just shake off some of the past and say, we're willing to try something new. We're willing to take on new partners. We're willing to, you know, we might make mistakes on our journey, but what's exciting about it is the potential. So that's it from me, Simon.
Great. Well, thank you everyone for joining us on this journey with these videos. We really hope you've enjoyed them. And now please take what you've learned and go out into your communities, into your organizations. And as Chepo and Rosalie have said, let's transform South Africa. And we look forward to engaging with you more, as Chepo said, in the comments or through Twitter or other means. Bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.